I just want to welcome everybody today, and I want to thank you for coming out, taking time out of your busy lives, and to come and sit down and listen to some of the Chimuinak about Chagosak, the narratives about the stars. First thing we should understand is that every culture on the face of the earth had a connection to the sky, Kichigizak, that great sky. Every culture on the face of the earth had their own constellations, their own names, had their own understandings, their own connections. For the indigenous peoples of North America, Central America, South America, and throughout the world, a lot of these Chimuinak, a lot of these narratives, a lot of these tellings are associated with the ceremony, associated with the language. They're deeply rooted in the language. They're deeply rooted in a lot of the social norms. They're deeply rooted in the songs. And a lot of them go so far as to saying, what is up there is mirrored down here. So we take our instruction from what's up there, and about how we should run our businesses, how we should run our lives, and how we should be treating each other. So I've been on this journey since about I earnestly started studying the stars about 2006, when I really started researching the sky. I was at a convention center at an education conference. At the time, I was teaching at Children of the Earth High School. And we took our students to the convention center for education conference. And I was chasing kids down the hall, and I just happened to be walking by this room. And I heard, the usual story, students chasing kids down the hall. And anyways, I was going to say high school kids, right? And anyway, so I'm running down the hall, and I ran by this room, and I heard this person talking. And he was talking about the sky. He was talking about the stars. But he was doing it from a different perspective than I was used to. Of course, going through the educational system, we heard about Roman Greek mythology. We heard about Western astronomy, and that's all we've heard about. And for myself, I just assumed that nobody else knew anything about the sky other than Roman Greeks and Western astronomy. And so I was running by this room, and all of a sudden I heard somebody talking about the Pleiades. And Pagwangizak, he mentioned. Pagwangizak means the hole in the sky. And I stopped, and I said, what is this? And so I listened. And then he started talking about the hole in the sky, the Pleiades, the seven sisters. And that's what Indigenous, one of the Anishinaabe called that place, that hole in the sky. And they say this is where we come from. And I was intrigued by that. And so at that point, and it just so happened at that point, a certain chain of events happened where I got hired on with the Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Center. And they asked me to work for them. And my mandate was to put First Nation perspective into sciences. And of course, I said, well, sure. And they said, nobody else has done it before, so you can do whatever you want to do. They're all right, I like this job. And the other thing that caught my attention, oh yeah, it's tax-free, they told me. Because at that time I was working for Winnipeg School Division 1, and they were taking about a half of my paycheck. And anyway, so yeah, well, I'm there, I told them. And anyways, so that change of events happened, and they told me my mandate at MF NERC was to put First Nation perspective into sciences. And so the first thing I did is I went to ceremony, and I asked the elders and the knowledge keepers how I could go about doing this in a respectful manner. And so what they told me was the easiest way you can do it is to have the students go outside at night and look at that sky. Because the schools you're going to, pretty much they're isolated communities, the majority of them, and they have awesome skies. And this is where our knowledge comes from, these skies. So if you get them out there and you get them interested in that, they'll eat it up, they told me. And sure enough, that's what happened. We started off with just one Chimuinak, Piapuga. Only one story, one narrative. And it was from an elder from Kinew MLA. Kinew MLA is better known as the Norway House. By the name of Murdo Scribe. He narrated this Chimuinak of Ochik the Fisher, and Ochik the Fisher, and the stars of the Big Dipper. And I was so intrigued by that. And I told this story so many times to students, and they ate it up, and they remembered it. Because where I was working, I had 55 schools I had to go to. I had to administer to. And so I'd go to one school, then maybe 5 years' time, I'd get back to that school because I'd have to go by myself. I had to go to all these schools. So probably 8 years later, I went back to one school, and I'm walking down the old dirt road going to the famous Northern store. Northern has a monopoly in our communities. And anyways, I'm going to the store at nighttime, and I see this group of kids, and they're standing and they're pointing up at the sky and they're talking. Then I come walking by, and one of them says, "Hey, you're the star guy." I look around. Yeah, okay. Yeah, remember you told me this story, and then he started talking about the sky, and he told me exactly what I mentioned to him 5 years prior, and I thought that was pretty awesome, and that's where I got my nickname from, the star guy. Of course, because in communities you get a nickname, right? You know you're accepted once you get a nickname. Okay, I'm there. And so we started that journey. And I happened to be in Nelson House at one point, and I was showing the planetarium to the students there. And then at nighttime, I was closing it down at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and a bunch of elders came in. They walked in, and I said, "Oh, I'm in trouble now." I said, and so they said, "We want to see what you got there." So I showed them. Went through the process, and after we finished, they got up and they left. And then one of them came back, and he said, "What you're doing here," he said, "you got to keep doing." He said, "because they're not getting this in school. What you're showing them, you're connecting them with Kichikishik. You're connecting them to that great sky. And this is where we get our instruction from. This is where we get our knowledge base. This is our history up there. And they're not getting this in that school. And they have to understand this, because this is part of them. This is who they are." And he said, "Don't worry. If you're meant to do this job, then things, persons, and places will be put in your path. And you won't have to run around and worry about stuff, because things will be given to you." And that's what happened. Things have been given to me. Every place I went, somebody gave me a story. And I'm just grateful that the elders had sanctioned the work that I do, because I'm always very cognizant of trying to overstep my bounds and trying to be something that I'm not. I'm pitiful. And I take the instruction from what the elders tell me, and I try to be true to that understanding, and to Ininew those Cree stars. And from that journey, I ran across Anishinaabe stars, Siksika stars, Lakota stars, Dakota stars, Nakota stars, Maori stars, Aborigine stars, and these people are reclaiming their sky. And in that process, we're learning so much about who we are as Ininew, as Anishinaabe, as a Siksika, as a Blackfoot, as a Pawata, we call them Dakota, Lakota. And I asked my friend here to speak a little on that, just in honor of his father, that sort of opened my eyes to look at that sky. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Wabanakwut, the next Premier of Manitoba.
Kay nin and get the magas, dino maganak. Wilfred does such a good job talking about these things. So much so that I'm not sure what I'm doing here. But Chibuaga gigito and the no demi gochuyawe ni mi nigasema. So I just want to acknowledge that. And I wanted to just start by telling a story. I went to Toronto this past fall on Thanksgiving long weekend. And I see a lot of familiar faces here in the room, so I know many of you will know my Uncle Fred. So my dad is Wabanakwut, who's listed on the chart here, and his youngest brother is Fred, who's the last of the brothers and siblings still around. And many of you probably know that he turned 80 last year, and some of you may know that he turned 80 in the spring, and then on Thanksgiving, he got remarried. So it's a very inspirational story for many of us that, you know, like life is long and it's full of many exciting things. So we're out there in Toronto to celebrate my uncle and his new wife and to help with the ceremony, and it was really nice. They got married at a downtown hotel, but of course, my uncle being the way that he is, they, very much indigenized the space, and they brought cedar and all sorts of medicines in, and they did a really nice job of it. But there was a new Kent Monkman show opening at the Royal Ontario Museum at the ROM, which is like, one of the big museums there. So my wife Lisa and I, we snuck out from all the festivities, and we jumped on the subway, and we took the subway over to go check out this show by Kent, who I'm sure many of you know is probably one of the preeminent Indigenous artists right now, and a lot of the stuff that he's doing is really, really exciting in terms of just recontextualizing and reimagining our peoples in the art world. And so this new show, we walk in and it's packed, and the art itself is very, 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 very stunning, and it relates to the subject matter at hand. For instance, he has like near the start, there's these paintings of dinosaurs, like flying dinosaurs, like pterodactyls, and maybe more land-dwelling dinosaurs, like triceratops. I'm nerding out at the 6-year-old self of me from when I used to study dinosaurs as a kid is nerding out right now. Just trying to name check all these cool dinosaurs that I learned about in grade school. But what was cool about Kent's artwork is that he called those, he called them Benesiuk and Mishibijuuk. So he's making a statement there. And, some of these, we might call them supernatural creatures from our traditions. He's making a statement as an artist about how ancient our ways of knowing are. Because he's saying this, underwater serpent that you heard about, Mishibiju, maybe it was actually like some kind of connection to the dinosaurs and how our people understood the fossils that they saw around. And he's saying Benesiuk, the thunderbirds, are maybe some kind of connection to the pterodactyl fossils that they encountered over the years. And so it's just this really cool, very exciting kind of artistic imagination of our people's traditional, well, in the business world it's called traditional ecological knowledge, but more accurately it's probably like traditional scientific and traditional intellectual property and stuff like that. And he does all these kind of interesting studies where he's like showing a petroglyph, a rock painting of a thunderbird from a site like Agawa in Ontario, and then he's just like doing different sketches where he shows like how that thunderbird image could correlate to the maybe the more scientific sketch that you might see in one of these textbooks exploring some of these themes. So we're there, and it's just like a really cool art experience. And not only is it really cool to look at the artwork on the wall, it's kind of cool just to sit in there and people watch. And you have all these like hipsters from Toronto, like one of the, at least they believe, one of the hippest cities in Canada, right? And this is like the artsy, like who's who, like thought leaders in the country. And of course they are very, very cool people. And they're all just like, yes, yes, like stroking the chin and like talking about these pieces on the wall. And there's more challenging pieces as well. Like they have like a few pieces about residential schools. And they're very moving, very challenging. And like you kind of watch the people interact with these things as well, with the residential school trauma that's being depicted there. And then in the last hall of this like multi-stage exhibit, he's got these studies, like these beautiful oil paintings of, I guess, people that he looks up to or people in the community that he admires. And my wife and I, Lisa and I, we make our way to like the preeminent, most magnificent, beautiful of these oil paintings there, and we're looking at it and we're just like, wow, beautiful. And that oil painting is of this man right here, Wilfred Buck. So Lisa and I were like looking at Wilfred, like stroking our chin, yeah. Stunning. What a specimen, But it was really important to see that too, because I think what Kent is doing is, at least from what I understand, the star knowledge, traditional knowledge, the intellectual tradition that he's reflecting in his artwork. I think Wilfred is probably one of his main teachers. And so he's paying homage to his teacher in depicting him in this way of being like this kind of very larger than life, almost like supernatural presence in that painting there. And you can see like the cosmos and the stars behind him. So yeah, I encourage you to look at the picture online or on Instagram, however you can find it. It's a very beautiful painting. And to me, that was really cool because it also inhabits one of the things that I really admire about Wilfred, is that not only does he carry on the intellectual tradition, he also practices the intellectual property framework that all Indigenous cultures take really, really seriously. So what do I mean by intellectual property framework? Well, like if you've taken intro to Ojibwe, or if you grew up in the community, or if you attend ceremonies, you probably know how to introduce yourself along the lines of like, Wabanakwut Indigenous, Piju and Totem, Onigaming and Donji, right? And Chibai Mateo, right? You know how to do that. And then the question is why? And the easy answer is, well, that's just how we were taught. It's like your name, your clan, your community, and then if you belong to a spiritual society. But I think there's actually a very compelling reason why, which is more than just like, that's how the elders taught us. The reason why we say like, this is my name, this is my clan, this is my home community, this is the spiritual society that I belong to. The reason why we say that is because it puts you in a relationship with the community and the nation from which you come from, and it also allows for accountability. Meaning, for instance, like if I'm out here telling the story and you're like, I don't know about that guy. But if you know, my name's Wabanakwut, I come from the Ojibways of Ininew First Nation, I'm a member of the Lynx clan, I went into the Spirit Lodge, then you would be able to go and you could drive to Sab, as we call it, Onigaming, and you could ask people, do you know that guy? Is he really from here? Is that dad, is his dad really also from here? And they'd be like, yeah, that's, Peter. John Pete, they used to call him his older brother, and stuff like that. And then, so too, you could say like somebody from the Lynx, like, is that really your relative? Is that really your clan relative? And so nowadays, we have like social media where there's all sorts of accountability conversations taking place there. But traditionally, like that's how it was done. And like one of the things we're taught when we're learning a song by the drum is when you sing the song, you're supposed to tell who taught you the song to, as a traditional song. You tell a story, you're supposed to explain who told you that story and gave you the right to share it, et cetera, et cetera. Same thing with a medicine. I remember this medicine person telling me once, just because I know where the plant is doesn't mean I have the right to use it, right? And then so if you're using it, there's also like the right to carry that on. Anyway, you see where I'm going with all that. And so there is this kind of intellectual property framework that is very, very highly developed in Indigenous nations. And we don't often get the credit for the sophistication of how complex and how well established that is. But that's something that's existed since time immemorial. And I really like the fact that Kent was practicing that in his painting of Wilfred. He's paying homage and explaining these things that I'm talking about, Mishibijuak, Benesiuk, here's how I know to be able to talk about them, is by showing you one of my teachers. And so too, the way he did it in his introduction, I always noticed Wilfred has practiced that over the years. He always credits the people that he spoke to, he credits the places where he got this, and you even heard him say, and I'm going to translate into Anishinaabe and Gitimagis, right? Like he's saying, like I'll translate it more, less bluntly, but he's saying I'm a humble person. Like I'm not a big deal. Is kind of what he's saying, right? And so I really, really appreciate that because he's practicing these excellent teachings and sharing them with the next generation. But the manner in which he carries it on, and you can see it in the way he practices it and the way he lives his life, he is also adhering to those ancient ways of being a knowledge carrier and a knowledge practitioner. So all that to say, I've got a lot of time for everything Wilfred says. And the most important thing of this whole story, this opening story that I wanted to share, is that Wilfred's wearing the same exact hat in that painting. And so when I walked into the basement here today, I said, oh, he's wearing the hat from the painting. It's going to be a good day. So yeah, so I really think that the work that you're doing here is wonderful. And I just wanted to just say those couple words to just pay tribute. Looks like the drum group is here now. I don't know if you wanted to do a song or a couple songs, or if you want to wait a bit. Yeah, do it now? All right. So we'll give the drum group a minute to come get set up here.
Excellent. Yeah, we have the Southern Thunderbird Medicine drum.
And welcome to Wilfred Buck's book celebration. So thanks everyone for coming.
All right. Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you for that beautiful song. Yeah, one more song they're going to do. Yeah. Hey. Thank you, ladies. The ladies are going to sing another song later on. But at this time, I want to, as part of the process of asking our leaders and our knowledge keepers to come and share with us, we honor them. So today I want to pass this gift on. This gift was made by one of our young dancers, and he made this. I'd asked him if he could make this. He's my nephew, and I'd asked him if he could make this for our leader here. So I want to pass this on to him, and he can show you. It's up to him if he wants to show everybody or not. But this is for you, for your, because we know that you're into the powwow circuit, and for those of you that might not know, Wab here is a chicken dancer, and I got one awesome image of Wab. Somebody videotaped it. He was at powwow dancing, and there was he's a young boy, was dancing away, and Wab would come walking, dancing beside him, and Wab looks at him, and the little boy just starts dancing really hard. And then he stopped and he looked at Wab, then Wab just started dancing really hard. So they were changing back and forth, and that was pretty awesome to see. It just encouraged that young man. So this is a hawk claw. And it's a dancing stick. And the young man who made it said he remembered your colors, so. Yeah. All right, thank you. Thank you for your words. Yeah. So at a later point, we're going to ask the ladies to come and share again. Need some water? Okay. So in the process of the pandemic, we'd put together 2 books, and one book is called I Have Lived 4 Lives. And it's a book I worked on for a good 20 years. Back in 1987, 88, 89, and 90, I worked with a group of young people from the inner city here, Indigenous people. And we had held meetings with the young people, our youth, because in the inner city at that time, there was about 4 high schools right in the inner city, and the majority of them were 99% Indigenous people, and they were going to these schools. And so we got to talking one day, what do you young people want? We were asking them. And so they said, well, we like this, we like that, and we like things. So one of my friends by the name of Larry Morissette, he said, hey, we should get all these youth together, and we should ask them what they want, and we should make them prioritize these things that they want, and then we'll see what we can do about it. So he said, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So we got probably about 400 youth together at the Freight House, and we asked them, grade 9, 10, 11, 12, what do you want for yourselves in this community? And they said, we want an education. We want culture. We want to know our culture. We want to know our history. We want to learn our language. We want to know our ceremony, and we want the central part of that being an education, a good education. But we want those other things because it's very important to us to know who we are, they said. And these were the young people telling us that. And so we said, okay, we'll look at these things and we'll take it to the people and see what they say. So we took that information to the people and we asked the people, this is what our youth want at this place, at this time. And they said, okay, if this is what they want, this is what you're going to do. And they elected about 8 of us, 8 of us from the community that lived in the community and worked in the community. And they said, okay, this is your job. Your mandate is to establish a culturally based high school within the city of Winnipeg that administer to part of the Winnipeg School Division 1. So that's what we did. And we worked for 4 years at doing that. And the most stringent opposition we had in that process came from our own people. Our own people. They organized against us. One of their main points was we didn't want an Indigenous-based high school, a culture-based high school, because we don't want our kids to have a second-class education. And that was just because we were Indigenous people that were doing this. So that colonialism, that colonial process runs very deep within our people. And we have to learn how to recognize that process. And we have to learn how to get out of that cycle, get out of the ruts. And we established that school. In 1991, that school opened up its doors, the Children of Redeemed High School. And it was, they said there was enough room for 250 people, 250 youth to come to that school. And 800 showed up at that door. And they were clamoring to get in. And one of the knowledge keepers, an awesome singer by the name of Curtis Assiniboine, he made a song for that school. And he presented it to that school and he showed that kids, this is your song. This is what you're going to be proud of. This is their flag song for this school. And then a pipe maker by the name of Luke Arquette, he presented the pipe. This is the pipe for your school. And then somebody else came and gave us a buffalo robe and a skull. This is for your school. And they gave us a buffalo, a whole buffalo. And the kids butchered that buffalo and they fed the community. They went in there and they cut it up and they cooked it, and they should have seen the pride in their eyes. And that school is still going today. We had it ups and downs. Sometimes it was come out of community ownership, but now it's going back into community ownership. And the youth are reclaiming who they are. And that was part of the process. They're still running into some of those kids today. And they always say, hey, remember that time we did this, and remember that time we did that. And so it's pretty awesome to see them out there. Some of them are graduated university. Oh, somebody's telling me, stop lying. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, so that process, and one of the things when I started learning about Achagosuk, those stars, and it showed me that a lot of these things we were taught about, especially going through university, the process, is that a lot of these things were not true to our people's beliefs. They were not true to what we hold as dear, what we hold close to our hearts, and what we believe as Indigenous people, as Ininew, Niho, and Anishinaabe. One of the things is that these names that we call ourselves, they're connected to Kichigizuk. They're connected to that great sky. And we always hear, the Dakota call themselves Dakota because it means the people. Anishinaabe call themselves because it means the people. The Ininew Cree people, Niho, call themselves that because it means the people. It doesn't mean that. We're Ininew, Niho. That when we say that word, that connects us to the sky. That reminds us that we have a knowledge up there. That reminds us that we come from another place. Ininew, Niho. Those two words have root words, and those root words are Neo, Biek, Niso, Nisto, Neo, Ininew, Niho. And it means of the four. We are of the four. And that directly connects us to Skitchigizuk, that great sky. Because we're told we come from a place up there called Bagwanagizuk, the hole in the sky. And that means what they're talking about, when they're talking about hole in the sky, they're not talking about a cute little story. They're talking about depth of knowledge. They're talking about intellectual capacity. They're talking about scientific understanding. When they're talking about the hole in the sky, they're talking about a spatial anomaly. They're talking about a wormhole. They're talking about a portal to another reality. They're talking about quantum theory. That's what they're talking about. And they say that's where we come from. We come from up there. We're Kishigugak. Kishigugak is a term from one of my teachers taught me. And it's an old term, and it could be translated as beings of light, beings of energy. And that's what we are. We're beings of light, we're beings of energy. And we come from that place, and we come here and we take a physical form. And that's how we, as Ininew, the Cree people, we directly get our name. When we come to this place, we take the form of the four energies that were here: the air, the earth, the water, and the fire. Neo, of the four. That's why we refer to ourselves as of the four, because we're energy and we come here and we take a physical form, and then when we leave here, we revert back to energy and we continue our journey. We don't keep coming back here and trying to get it right. We go through that hole in the sky and we're gone somewhere else. And so, Neo ho, Ininew, they tell us that we're from another quantum theory. We're from another possibility. But they never tell us that in school. They never told me that. They never told me that my people have a depth of knowledge. They never told me that my people have an intellectual capacity. When I started hearing that, the only place I heard it was sitting in a lodge, sitting in a ceremony, listening to my elders talk about reality, talk about our place in this reality, because this is not the only place, they tell us. We're visitors at this place. We're not human beings learning how to be spiritual. We're spirits learning how to be humans. And that there is the direct connection to who we are. Atsagak, Kisagugak. These terms, again, refer back to our place in this reality. And through the list of names that you see on this board here, they taught me so much about who I am. As Pawami negate cikiw. My name is Pawami negate cikiw. O Pawami negate cikiw. He has dreamt a dream and keeps it. Pawami negate cikiw, the Dream Keeper. And that name connects me to Kichikizik, that great sky. It connects me to Pagwangizik, that hole in the sky. And it tells me I've been mandated to talk about Pawamiak. I've been mandated to talk about energy and that reality that's out there. And so I've been lucky, like I said, I've been lucky that people, places, and things have been put in my path, that these teachings were given to me to pass on that knowledge. Because the process of passing on of knowledge is a very sacred thing. And through the colonial process that happened to our people, a lot of that knowledge, the passing on of knowledge, has been broken. And that knowledge hasn't been passed on in the correct manner. We have young people nowadays who are making relations with their relatives, and they don't know, because they don't know their bloodlines. They don't know who their relatives are due to the historical trauma, due to the residential school system, due to the 60s scoop, due to the child welfare system, the breakdown and social breakdown of our families. That our relatives don't know who they are anymore. They don't know the bloodlines. And there's a constellation in the sky called the Nameo the sturgeon. And that Nameo the sturgeon, when you look up in the sky and you know where it is, it reminds you of what bloodlines are, who your clans are, who your ancestors are, that passing on of knowledge. And we have to reclaim those skies to get this understanding. We have to reclaim those skies so our children know who they are and where they're going and where they come from. And I want to thank our elders for taking the time and seeing something else that we never saw, and allowing us to listen to the knowledge that they've generously gave to us. And I want to thank everybody for listening here. At this time, I'm going to, again, turn it over to Wab if you'd like to say a few words. And then later after that, maybe you can ask if anybody has any questions. And I'm sure Wab can answer them for you.
Yeah, we'd like to open it up for questions. So if you have some, please give it some thought, and we'll bring the mic out to you, and you can pose your questions for Wilfred, to be specific. Maybe I'll get it started rather than talking too much. I'll pose a question to Wilfred, and I'll just say a little bit of a preamble. I really appreciate how you relate language to what you're talking about, and how you break down the terms in the language to explain an idea. And to me, this is like one of the really special ways in which we can see how Anishinaabe thought or Ininew thought is different from Western thought. For instance, as it relates to the topic at hand, when we say a star in Anishinaabe it's anang, right? And the way our language works is the big difference is whether something is alive or not alive, animate or inanimate, right? And so if something is alive, like Anishinaabe, when it becomes plural, it's Anishinaabeek with a G at the end. If something's inanimate, taban, a car, it gets an N at the end, tabanan for plural. A star, Western thought, star is like an inanimate object in the depths of space, far, far away. In the Anishinaabe language, star, anang, is anangok. It's alive. It's a living thing. It's dealt with in the same way as you or I or mom or dad or grandparents, kids, any of the animals out there, grammatically speaking. Just the way the language is constructed to deal with these terms. And it shows you, like, at a very fundamental level, the language thinks about celestial phenomena, objects, stars, the universe in a very different way from the way that the average kind of Western scientific approach would probably talk about that. So anyways, yada, 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 I'm going on too long. But I wanted to ask you to reflect on some of what you have learned from language and how the language that you speak can reveal insight and knowledge into what our people's thought about the stars and the universe and about what it all means to us. And then maybe from there we can open it up and welcome questions from the floor.
Well, again, we have to refer to what my elders taught me and have passed on to me and thought that I could understand. And one of the concepts that really opened my eyes was from my teacher, the Piskawi Pisa Machape Sugamau, the Moon Boat Chief, and better known as William Dumas from South Indian Lake. And one of the things he told me was when we refer to life, there's a word that's used. And that word is Pema Tishuan. And that's what we identify as life. And in the school systems, when they're teaching Cree to the young people, they say, this is life. Pema Tishuan. Or they say, this is bear, Maskwa. But the elder told us, don't ever stop there. Don't ever let the students just understand and equate that word to the English word, because it means so much more. It paints a picture in your head, and it makes you understand. Maskwa, the term Maskwa, we ask, what does Maskwa mean? And of course, he said, well, it's bear. Yeah, but the term for that, there's a phrase that has been contracted to form the word Maskwa. The phrase is maskigiawa, maskigiawa, which means this being is medicine. Maskigiawa has been contracted to Maskwa. And that's why this bear is a sacred animal for us. Because we watched that bear, we studied that bear, we looked at its habits, we've seen what it did, we've seen what it ate. And we watched it and we followed it and we copied it. We found weak S, very important to our people. That rhizome that we use for all kinds of minor aches, scalds, and burns. Yeah. And and that bear showed us that. And he showed us all kinds of medicines and how to go about the business of living and how to relax and how to rest. So that's one example that one of the elders showed us. And then my teacher, he was talking about Pema Tishuan. He said the term Pema Tishuan connects us to Kichigizik, that great sky. And it connects us to who we are and where we come from. We come from Cikiw. Cikiw. That's where we come from, Cikiw. We come from the woman. We can go so far back as to saying how we got here was through Cikiw. The first one here was Cikiw. Cikiw, Star Woman. She was the first one here. And through her, we come to this place. So if you look at that term, Pema Tishiwan, there's a root word in there, and that root word is Mateshe. Mateshe means umbilical cord. Pema Tishiwan, it means like moving forward with the memory of all your female relatives going before you in a good way. That's what that term, Pema Tishiwan, means. So it directly connects you to a squirrel, and it directly connects you to a Chagos, Star Woman, which came from the hole in the sky. She came from the hole in the sky. Pema Tishiwan, Matishe. Just saying that word, I'm in awe of all my squirrel, all my relatives. I'm in honor of my wife. I'm in honor of my daughters. I'm in honor of my mothers. I'm in honor of my grandmothers. I'm in honor of my Chapans, my relatives, 3 generations behind me, my relatives, 3 generations ahead of me, my relatives I won't never know. But I still try to put forward that knowledge as best I can, because my teacher entrusted me with that knowledge, and his teacher entrusted him with that knowledge, and their teacher entrusted them. And we try to bring that knowledge forward as best we can. And yeah, it connects to the land, and it connects to our reality. Because any indigenous language tells you that everything is connected together. Everything is dependent on each other. Everything has repercussions. Everything has responsibilities. Everything has reverberations that you do. You can't just compartmentalize one little thing and say, this has no impact on anything else. It does. I had one of the elders laugh at, well, not at me. I was at the University of, the First Nations University in Regina, and we were listening to this science guy. He's a professor, and he was talking about an experiment that he was doing. And he was saying, we observed this experiment, and we placed ourselves away from what was going on, and we watched through a glass partition, like that guy's doing over there. I see that guy right there. Anyways, and he said, so we were impartial observers. We were disconnected. We had no influence. And the elder laughed. He looks, he says, how can he be impartial? How can he be disconnected? He's occupying the same space, the same world. You're breathing the same air. The very molecules that make up your body are interacting with everything else here. So you can't disconnect yourself from your reality. So that's a very vital concept to understand, that we can't separate ourselves. We can't isolate ourselves, because we're part of everything, and everything's part of us. And that's one of the understandings that people have. When I've been researching the sky, one of the things that I've been finding is that there are multiple understandings about any constellation up in that sky. Any group of stars, there's multiple understandings. If you look at the stars of the Big Dipper, so far we've come across about 8 different narratives about that group of stars. So it's not like we look at that star and say, that's Ursa Major, and then that's all it is. It's more than that. And I totally confuse the astronomers, astrophysicists, when I talk about, this is Mr. Muska, we call it the Big Bear. So talking about Big Bear, and then about 5 minutes later, I'm calling it, there's old cheek. And then I keep going, and 5 minutes later, I'm calling it something else. And they say, wait, what are you doing? You're talking. But it's the fluid reality of our understanding around us. Everything is connected, everything is fluid, everything is interchangeable, and everything has repercussions, and everything connects. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I'm going on forever here.
I wanted to offer you tobacco. I borrowed tobacco from Dr. Cook because I want to ask you a question. And I'm very interested in the horse in the sky.
The what?
The horse in the sky.
Oh, the horse in the sky. Okay.
Yeah. Miigwech.
Thank you. One of our elders, Margaret LaValle. And thank you for the just Tim. Huh? She asked about Mr. Tim. Mr. Tim, there's a horse in the sky. And we're told that Mr. Tim has been with the people forever. Mr. Tim has been with us ever since we can remember. That's why he's in the sky. And we're told that going through the educational process and listening to the history of North America, one of the understandings is that conquistadors arrived in Central America in 1400s, 1500s, and they conquered the Aztecs people, Azteca, and they conquered the Inca people, and they bought horses. And we're told these horses were introduced to our people. This is how we got horses. And we believe that because there was nobody to question it. They must be telling the truth. And so that's what we believed. That's why we got horses. And they told us that Azteca people, they were very, very, very knowledgeable in astronomy. Inca people, very knowledgeable in astronomy and mathematicians. They built huge pyramids that were in line with the stars, and they knew when eclipses were going to happen, and they followed the movement and the retrograde motion of Mars. But they did human sacrifice. And I said, "Oh, what's this?" But we believe that. So everything that our people did that was of consequence, there was a little add-on to it. The Skidi Pawnee people, master astronomers, they painted the sky on hides, and they memorized that sky, and they could tell the movement of the stars, the movement of the planets, but they were cannibals. And there's always a little add-on to it, Our people were master horsemen. We bred horses like crazy, and we lived on. The horses were like just like our own body, but they were introduced to us by the Spanish conquistadors. So little things like that got me wondering, why always that? Just feeling good about yourself and just shoot you right down. And then I ran across these stories. There's an elder by the name of Barry Henekiw, Neoho, from Saskatchewan, and he does a horse ceremony. And he invited me to his horse ceremony, and it was a really, really awesome ceremony. It was just so amazing. And he talked about Mr. Tim and how he was with the people. And I'm sitting there listening, and I'm thinking, all this stuff is running contrary to what they taught me in school. And then I ran across this other lady, and she said that the horse has been with our people, generation upon generation upon generation. Prior to the Europeans, that horse, Mr. Tim, has been with us. And they said when the Europeans landed in Central America with the Inca people, the conquistadors, 2 years after that, it was documentation that there were Europeans in the Louisiana area, and the people were riding horses. So how does that connect? How does that connect? And the reason is it doesn't connect. The only way it connects is that the people had horses. And yeah, the people have horses. They did DNA tests on some of these horses, and they found that these horses are indigenous to North America, and they were with us all the time. There's things called spirit horses. Anishinaabe have spirit horses. The Nez-Perce bred specific horses that were indigenous to North America. They weren't associated with Arabian horses. They weren't associated with any other horses. They were indigenous to our people. So those are one of the inconsistencies about history, that we have to re-educate our young people. And we have to make them understand that our people have a depth of knowledge. Our people have an intellectual capacity. Our people have a right to understand these things and to be here. And Mr. Tim is one of them. He's in the sky. The stars of the Big Dipper, that handle of the Dipper is the tail of Mr. Tim. And Mr. Tim uses the stars of Ursa Major, but his head is higher. And he's used some stars in the camel that's in the sky. And here's my little segue. And in the book Kichikuzik, we've just made, you'll find, but we have images of him in that book. So thank you for the question. Actually, do them.
Yeah, bonjour, I'm Bill Greenwald. The question that I have is about a lot of Western culture teaches us to fear death, to fear passing on. And from what I've learned in Anishinaabe, that they really don't have to fear that because we have ancestors that come and bring us back home. Now, I don't know, let me get this straight here. You were saying something about that when we pass, we don't go and then come back as a different being to redo and make up what we have. So the question that I have is, what happens to our spirit after we pass and we go back to the whole?
So the question is, what happens to us after we live our lives at this place, Uataiski, this earth here, and we go through our experiences. And I had an interesting encounter. I was up in Victoria, University of Victoria, and I was doing a presentation on Achagasak, the stars, with astrophysicists over there. And after the presentation, a couple of the local people came up to me and they said, "Hey, you want to come to a sweat? We're going to have a sweat." I said, "Oh, sure, I'd like to go to a sweat." So some other astrophysicists were standing around, so I extended the invitation. I said, "Would you guys like to come to a sweat?" And they all looked and said, No. But one of them said, "Yeah, okay, I'll go. I'll go just to honor your invitation, but you got to be aware that I'm very, very uncomfortable with organized religion. I'm very organized with all the dogma that goes with it and the concepts, but I'll attend your sweat." So she came. She came to the sweat, and she was the head of her department. And anyway, she showed up at the sweat, and she went in the sweat, but she was pretty hesitant. But she went through with it, and she stayed all the 4 rounds. And at one point, the elder that was doing the lodge, he asked me to talk about where we come from and how we got here and where we go. And so I had talked about Pagongijik, that hole in the sky. I talked about us as beings of energy, beings of light, and how we come to this place and we take a physical form. And then how when we're finished here, we revert back to energy and we continue our journey. And so after the sweat was over, this particular lady, she approached me and she said, "You know, this isn't at all what I expected. I expected heaven and hell and good and bad and all kinds of stuff like that, but you never mention one of those. What you talked about was something I could understand. What you talked about is energy. What you talked about is energy is neither created nor destroyed, it just changes form." And that's what you were saying. What you're talking about is particle theory, and I can understand particle theory. And I want to come back to the sweat lodge again, she said. And so, yeah, we're energy. One of the understandings is that Kitsamanto, our creator, had a thought. Kitsamanto had a creator thought, and he had a thought, and whatever creator thought about came into being. Creator thought about light, energy, kichikuwak, and we came into being. Creator thought about Ashindiak, those rocks, and they came into being. And they say that direct connection, that energy, who we are in essence as beings of light, as beings of energy, is direct connection to Kitsamanto, our creator. A direct connection. We have a direct connection. And they said, being that we have that direct connection and we're a direct product of Kitsamanto, our creator, we have that energy that creator has. And that means that energy can never end. All it does is change form. It never ends. And the thing about that, they said, is that since Creator can never end, right now, at this very second, creation is still being created. It's still expanding. And we'll never understand what reality is, because there's multiple realities. We'll never understand. All we know is, up sheesh pogo, just a little tiny bit. But that is okay, that's good, that's fine. So we continue our journey. We don't come back and reboot and come back as a goat or whatever. You know? Well, some people believe that, you know, that we come back as that other thing. But one of the way I told the scientists is that, just think about it like this. We reboot ourselves and we totally wipe our memory and we're gone. We're gone somewhere else and we're doing something else somewhere else in another reality. We're talking about quantum theory. They say when we sleep at night and we dream, our energy connects to Pagwan Gisik, that hole in the sky. And it's a direct connection. And we're bombarded with all kinds of possibilities, just blah, 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 blah. Even if we don't remember what we're dreaming about, we're still bombarded with these possibilities. So that's a direct connection to multiple realities. That's a direct connection to quantum theory. Sometimes you're sitting there and you say, hey, this happened before. Or hey, I've seen this before. Oh, hey, I know that person, you know. And the elders say, yeah, that's because you dreamt about that. You were shown that possibility, and it happened. Sometimes they come true. I dreamt about this when I was walking in here. I said, hey, I dreamt about this place. You know, this was going to happen, and I got a little picture of it before. You know. And then somebody was going to give me $300. So,
Hello, nice to meet you. I like the story you shared about the North End. It was very nice to be a part of that. Actually, when it happened, I got to help do some painting in the gymnasium of that school. It was a great place to go at that time when it did happen. I'm just like nervous to talk. I guess for me, and you know, obviously for others. I would like to, if you have a story or something that will, how the stars acknowledge and are a part of the youth. Speaking of the North End, I'm getting ready to do an initiative, a sport initiative in the North End. I know that will bring together hundreds of children, and for me, it's not only part of my healing, but also wanting to have that and utilize that natural desire to heal, that to help that comes with healing. So for me to have a greater understanding of many of the youth that I know I can connect with and have a very similar history, you know, just kind of something to not only enlighten but empower me on this very important initiative I'm going to put forward, and I'm very passionate about it. I've been a business owner, I've been a product of the street, and I still want more. And for me to see I've been able to get an education, I've been able to work with many youth, I've been able to, again, start my own business. It's not enough for me. So for me, being a thunder being, I truly believe that there's a greater power that will, inside of me, that will not only heal me, but will help with so many other youth that are gonna truly embrace this opportunity that will be available for them. And it's nice to go back home to the North End and to go with a different kind of mindset, a different type of ability, and a different type of understanding of how I want to give who I am and how I want to share it with many young people. So I guess for me, a big part of coming today was wanting to hear some type of story or connectivity of the stars and the youth, because for me, there's nothing else I want to do. So to take any opportunity to have a greater understanding of the many youth, and again, many that I know I can connect with, it's part of that is just being here to kind of empower myself to be stronger for them. Thank you.
Well, that's one of the things, one of the dreams that I'd had when we first started putting together Children of the Earth High School, and the youth were talking about wanting to reconnect with their culture, reconnect with their history, reconnect with their language, reconnect with their ceremony, and reconnect with their song and their dance and all these things. What they did there, what they were doing there is they were categorizing our methodological process. As Indigenous people, we have a methodological process. And part of that process is connecting with each other, it's sitting here sharing. That's a very important part of it. Another one is traveling. You have to travel, they tell us. Our elders always told us, you have to travel. You can't stay in one place. You got to travel. Because when you travel, you're exposing yourself to different ideas. You're exposing yourself to new experiences. You're exposing yourself to other possibilities. And these are important in your formulation of your thought processes. You have to understand those things. You have to travel. The other thing is you have to dream and you have to acknowledge those dreams. You have to fast. When you fast, you disconnect yourself from the world and you reconnect to that energy that is our Mother Earth and our energy that's around us. And you slow yourself down and you think about who you are, where you come from, what happened to you. And you think about the things you've done. And you dream and you make those connections. So it's very important to fast. And one of the dreams I had is to have grade 9s, 10s, 11s, and 12s fasting every year as a school-initiated course, to have students go out and be able to experience that. Because when you do that, you get a totally different perspective. I worked with young people from inner city for quite a number of years, a long time. At-risk youth, children in care, children in the criminal justice system. And you talk to those kids in a place, in an urban area, you talk to them and how hard they are, how cold they seem to be. You take them out on the land, you talk to those people again, they're totally different. They're totally different people, and they want to learn. So yeah, what you're doing, yeah, it's great. You take them out on the land, and you get them reconnected, and they'll find themselves. You get them fasting, and they'll find themselves. So I don't know if that answers your question, but you're doing a good job. Thank you.
I have a question.
I'll just, Wilfred just asked me to add a comment there. So I'll just say, like, because he's talking about fasting, and, I think a lot of the cultures in this area have that, like Hamlecha for the Dakota, and, Vision Quest and that for us and the Cree. And there's a lot of words in the language about what that is. Makateke is one of them, but Andoboachige is a different one. And I think that's where the term vision quest comes from, because Andoboachige literally means like to seek, or he or she is seeking their dream, seeking a dream. And so I think what he's talking about is very relevant to help a young person find a career or a meaning for their life or a path to walk on, literally by doing the Vision Quest ceremony, but also just on another level, to be around the sort of positive environment that Wilfred and yourself are talking about, I think really can put someone on a good path and allow them to see where they want to go in life and what their dream for themselves actually is. Yeah. Next question, sorry.
Yeah, good afternoon, Wilfred. My name is Wesley Monias from Hollow Water. And my question is, right now we're faced with sand development in our country there, in our part of the bush there. And I'd like to ask, do you believe in other beings that come to the world through the stars and then come to certain areas for something that's there? Like a little comment I'd make. Back in 1980, me and my wife and another person observed two things come out of the sky, and where they went, we watched them. They came, they lowered themselves down, and they came to where the silica sand is. We were there behind a big sand pile. We were there, we were out looking for deer that night. So we parked by the thing there, and we seen these things come out of the sky. They came through. There was 2 of them. And then all of a sudden, they just like they powered down. The lights were really dim, like a battery is going to die. Then all of a sudden, they seen us by the thing there, and the other one powered up. Both of them powered up, and they went up to the sky. And then we made a run for it, and they followed us. So we lost 2 hours from where we were to where we were going that night. So my question is, do you believe that there's other beings out there that come here? And what makes us coincidental is what they were after is the sand that's underneath where we live. It's just like they came there and they powered up. So maybe there's the silica sand is the future for cheap renewable power that we don't know about. Could this be possible? Thank you.
Yes, well, first of all, we, like was mentioned before, that as Ininew, we believe that we come from someplace, and we come here as energy, and we take a physical form, and then we return back to energy and continue our journey. So yeah, I have to believe that there are beings out there that come here, because I'm one of them. And therefore, I believe in myself. But so the possibilities are endless. Like we go Matutsan, into that sweat lodge, Maduduzan, and sometimes we see those kichikokak, those energy, that light, and we say these are our relatives. They're coming to acknowledge us. So yeah, we have to believe that there's things that we don't understand, things that we will never, like I said before, there's things that we will never understand. We only know very little of this reality that we occupy. And there's so much that we don't know. And we have to accept, and science is always finding new stuff all the time, new understandings. And so there's a lot of things that we don't understand, and we pretend that we're okay. We're not crazy. Though my wife questions me sometimes. But yeah, there's a lot of things that we can't explain, and we just take it that okay, that's part of an experience that we have to go through. Maybe somewhere down the road we'll understand what that means. It's just like a dream. Just like a dream. Our elders always tell us that when you have a dream, try not to run someplace and try to get it interpreted. Think about it and let it sit with you. Sometimes it takes years, and then all of a sudden you'll say, hey, that's what that meant, because you're ready for that understanding at that time. Actually, thank you.
Hi, Wilfred. Hi, Wab. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Lorraine. My spirit name is Forebear Woman, and I belong to the Wolf Clan. When we're talking about the stars and the universe, I just wanted to share that growing up, I laid on the sands and watched the stars and just was always admired by them. And a couple years ago, my father passed, and I was out on the land where you have your sweat lodge, Wilfred. And my dad thought that he was a farmer, but the land and whatever was surrounded him was very important to him, and he taught us that. And so on his passing, he had lots of wood and lots of things that could be reused, sort of thing. So he had these poles, and I thought, well, we could use those for a teepee. So I had got those, brought them to the land, and with other sisters and relatives, we put this teepee together. in honor of my father. So then it came where I had put my phone up to just in, what do you call it, slow-mo to watch this teepee being built. Because we'd take it down and put it up, take it down, because we were doing all the teachings and all. And at the end of it, I went to go grab it, and I saw that my phone had fallen, and I'm like, oh, darn, I bet I missed all the teepee, building this teepee. And then, so then I'm looking through this, and I happened to see this image in the clouds. And it was a picture of my father, because I'd asked him to come to see what we were going to do with his poles, and that how much I honored these poles, and I wanted him to come and watch. So, well, my question is, how do the clouds, because I have the picture, a still picture of him, and it kind of freaked me out a bit, but I believe in there's, you know, when you pass, they're always watching upon you and taking care of you. But in the clouds, it was like, how do the clouds, are they interconnected with the stars in a way? Or like people always say, oh, they see the elephants or they see the clowns or whatever in the clouds. Well, I believe that the picture that I have was my father's image. So I don't know if you can elaborate on that a little bit more or anything. Thank you. I love listening to your stories.
Yeah, thank you. Well, one of the understandings is that we have something called a mind, and that mind is the most powerful thing on this earth. That mind connects us with everything, and that mind gives us the ability to dream. And they say our dreams can expand time, expand space, contract time, contract space. Our mind can do all these things. Our mind can let us see things that we don't normally see. And it's part of the process. Sometimes we're not ready to see those things, and other times we're ready to see those things. And it's part of a healing process, and it's part of a journey. And we get these things when we're ready for them or when we need them. And maybe somebody else wouldn't see at all that image that you're talking about. Maybe somebody else had no idea. Look at you and say, "What are you talking about?" You know. But that was for you. That's your image, your memory, your experience, and everybody's experience is different. But that energy which connects us to our dreams. It's part of the process of coming to knowledge, the understanding of the infinite possibility of the human mind. The human mind is so awesome. It's unbelievable. Sometimes I watch Discovery Channel, and in the Discovery Channel they got these shows come on like ancient aliens. Or the ancient apocalypse they talk about. Oh, the people, they knew how to do these things. The only way they knew how to do these things was because an alien must have came and showed them. You know, the ancient Incas, they built these intricate big cities up on top of the mountains that they looked like jigsaw puzzles put together. They fit together so nicely. Aliens must have shown them how to do that. You know, and all this knowledge that we forgot about. We thought about it, we lived it, and we forgot about it. It's through the human mind, the human process, that understand these things. And we've been trained not to give credit to the ability of who we are as human beings, as energy, as light, as these things. I think what we're going to do now, we're going to be running short of time here. I could sit here and yap all night and make up all kinds of stories. Yeah, yeah, there's moose meat stew that's waiting for us. We're going to ask the ladies to share one more song, and then we're going to head upstairs and get some moose meat stew, and we have some books and stuff for people. Yeah. All right.